Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm working with the lovely Let's Go Shopping stamp set. Now this stamp set is in the main catalogue and is in a suite, so there are dies and DSP, and I've used the DSP for the background here, which is just, I think it's just beautiful DSP, but there are lots of others as well. So this one I've stamped this image and coloured it, but if you aren't into colouring, you could use the same effect by using some of the paper. So you'll see on the front you've got 3 different sheets with different shops on the front. She says, there we go, 3 different sheets. So we've got this one with kind of bakeries and sweet shops. This one's got art and clothing shops and food, looks like a restaurant. And then this one's got sort of florist and bookshop, and yeah. And so they're lovely, lovely DSP, 12 by 12. These are the other sheets. This is possibly my least favourite one, but then it's just as well because I can use this one for like cobblestone scenes. This one has got books on the front, but this lovely sort of tiles. And then this one is the reverse of my favourite. But if you think about it, you can actually get 6 card fronts from each sheet of paper, so actually you can make loads, so 12 out of a pack, although it depends if you don't want, if you want to use these little tiny ones on the back. But anyway, there we go, that's the paper, 12 by 12, and it's called Les Shops, which is French for shops, and this one, Let's Go Shopping. And I'll probably mention this one as well. So this is in the mini catalogue, and this is as these two are cut out by the same dies as these two as well. So those are other options. But the great thing about this stamp set is actually that, you know, you can create with it without using the dies, which I think is really useful. Not everybody, particularly when you're starting out, you don't always have all the dies. This is to show you what the dies do. So they don't just cut out the images, although they cut out, these are the images that they cut out. But then you've got these other lovely ones. So you've got ones to cut out the apertures for your doors and windows. You've got these ones which layer together to make a little kind of umbrella for the front. You've got little coat hangers here as well. And then you've got a lamp post, this sort of foliage effect with these lovely kind of wisteria fronds or plants. You could have them up the other way as plants growing up as well. Maybe that's how they were intended, but hey, who knows. And then you've got sentiments as well as infill. So for the shops, you've actually got bookshop and a cake shop, and this goes in the top of here as well. So that is another way of creating it. And then you've got the little sort of books and bakery, which also fit beautifully in these little windows. So there's lots of options to kind of mix and match. But I wanted to show you how on this card, how I've done this without using the dies as well. So things you're going to need, you're going to need some masking paper. Now I don't use the masking paper very often, so I probably should do, but yeah, I don't. So yeah, you want a scrap of our masking paper, and I've just cut a sort of 1.5 inch 4 centimetre strip of our masking paper. Things to note with our masking paper, it is super sticky, and by that I mean, you know, if you literally, you know, you do need to de-stick it before you do anything. So let's do our basic card first. So basic card, so this is half a sheet of A4 scored in half. So for me, 14.85 by 21 scored at 10.5 centimetres. Obviously if you're in the US, your card will be slightly shorter. That's 5 7/8 by 8 1/4 scored at 4 1/8. In the US, that would be 5.5 by 8 1/2 scored at 4 1/4. Then you want a layer that is just 1/2 centimetre, 1/4 inch smaller than half of that. So that's mine. So that is 14.3 by 10 centimetres. And then I've just gone a little squidge smaller. So on this one, I've just gone for 14 by 9.7 centimetres because I thought it was rather nice to have a sort of really teeny tiny border. And what I'm going to do now is what I say to people, gut your cardstock. So this gives me an extra bit of card to use for a layer. and I just pop it in at 2 centimetres on the right hand side of my scoreboard measuring, and I come in at about 2 centimetres from the top, and it doesn't matter if it goes over slightly, as long as you don't go right to the edge. And there you have a nice little piece to use on another card. So keep that to one side. That's nicely gutted. You also want a piece of, so let's put that on while I'm talking. So you want a piece of the DSP to go on the front of that, as I said. So I'm just adding my adhesive to the outer edge. Pop that on there. Our DSP, again, just add the adhesive to the back of the DSP up near the edge. You don't want any in the middle because you're not going to be gluing it in the centre, you're just growing it on the edge. And I've used Balmy Blue for the card base. Then I've used a bit of Misty Moonlight, which is just that tone, sort of shade lighter than Night of Navy, which is a beautiful colour. You then want a piece of, again, same Misty Moonlight, and I've cut that to 7.5 by 9 centimetres, 3 by 3.5, and I would use that same measurement if I was in the US. And then a layer of basic white that's 7 by 8.5, so 2 3/4 by 3 1/4, and that's what we're going to be stamping onto. I've also got a piece for the inside, and I've gone slightly smaller on that today, just because I thought it might make a nice change, and also to fit a scrap I had. So this is actually 9.5 by 13.8, so it's a centimetre, so you'd go half an inch smaller. So on US cardstock, you'd be making that 5 by 3 3/4 inches. So it just gives a slightly wider border, and that's because I had a tiny scrap of DSP, which is my offcut from here, and I'm just going to cut that in half and add it to each side of my card. So this is a way of decorating it on my first card. So this is about 2 centimetres in width. So often when you're creating cards, you end up with little strips. So don't throw them away. You know, they can be used to decorate the inside of your card. I used on my sample, because it was a bakery, I actually cut a couple of pieces out of the bakery DSP and added those to the inside. But I think this is a little more sophisticated, this blue edge. And less fussy cutting, you know. And less fussy cutting, in my mind, is good. I know some people who do a lot of fussy cutting, and they love it. I don't very often do a lot of fussy cutting, because I just don't have time. Go. Just make sure it's oriented the right way. There we go. So that's the inside of my card done. So we're almost there. So now what we want to do is take our stamped images. So the ones you want this main shop, you want the next story up, and then I'm going to use the books for this particular one. And with both of these, I'm going to stamp them in Memento, because we're going to cover colour using our stamping blends. So a larger stamp, it's larger than the ink pad, so take ink pad to stamp. It's photopolymer as well, so if you've got a stamping Pierce mat, I would recommend that. I'm stamping onto a pad of paper, so I've got that little bit of give. So make sure your paper's straight, and then I'm just going to use that image and just hover and stamp, and hopefully get that straight. It's not bad. Then I'm going to do the same with my next one. In fact, actually, I'm just going to pop that onto a block. Okay, right, ink up. And I'm going to line that up, which is easier said than done with all my paraphernalia. So if you get a shot of my head. So all I'm doing is I'm kind of eyeballing where those lines align with the bottom section of the house. There we go. Now, if they don't quite join, guess what? Grab your Stampin' Right marker and just come in and join them up. And that's always the way what you can do as well. You know, if you've ever got something that hasn't quite worked, come in after you've coloured it and finish it off. So there's my kind of house. Looks reasonably straight. So I can do my books, which is great because look, you know, my books fit perfectly into that window. So I can just line those up and pop the shelves in place. But obviously if I try and stamp into these top sections, I'm going to have a mess because it's just going to go all the way over. So this is where our piece of masking paper comes in. So stamp in whatever colour you want. My house, and I'm making it slightly bigger. There we go. I need to, because I want a little bit that's left, so I'm just going to cut a strip. And this is just me being frugal. I'm just going to put on the front there an F for front, so I know when I come to use that for something else that's the bit to stamp on. Now, if I've got the dies, which I do have, but if you haven't, then if I've got the dies, I'm just going to die cut those out, which works, but I would say it doesn't give you as big an aperture as you might like to get a good image right to the edge. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut those apertures. So sorry, yeah, there is fussy cutting, but I'm coming right up to that black line outline on all of those, because that means when we stamp we'll get our image coming pretty close to the edge of the windows, like so. And as I said, this Stampin' Up masking paper is super sticky, so the first time I use it, it'll disappear off camera, but I'll be sticking it to my t-shirt, and that way it picks up a bit of fluff, and then when you stamp it on your cardstock, because obviously you're then putting pressure, it just means it won't stick to that beautiful image that you've got stamped there. And because the first time I tried it, I literally took the front piece of my card off because it was so sticky. But there we go. I'd rather have it sticky and be able to use a bit of fluff than it not stick. Now, if you haven't got masking sheet, you can do it with Post-it note, but you just need to be careful with Post-it note because it will lift up. So there we go. There is a joining piece you can see on the back there. So I'm just going to peel that away. And as I said, stick to your t-shirt, pat it down, or the back of your hand. So once you've got your mask, just pop that over those windows. Don't press down too firmly, just make sure and really do de-stick it quite a bit. Then you come in, and what I'm going to do is come in and just ink up that top row of books. So that bottom section, I don't want it to stamp down here, and I'm just going to come in and do the left-hand windows, and then do that right-hand window, like so. The moment of truth. Then just peel. That's still super sticky. Peel that off gently. Try not to tear it. I will still be able to use that even though I've actually torn it. Just bring it down. There we go. So, and then what I do is I stick that inside my stamp case on the acetate sheet, so that I've kind of got several that I can use. And I may have to throw that one away where I've torn it in half, but there we go. as I said, what it does mean though is that you've got those little, you know, books showing through. So all I'm going to do now is then stamp my ones in the bottom. So again, just use that. Just add my books, and I've got my books stamp ready as well, so I can pop that in there. So you've got the signage as well. So, having done our masking, now we can get on and do our colouring. So I've got my light and dark balmy blue, and I've got my light night of navy. Then I've just, what have I grabbed? I've got dark petal pink. I've got some ivory. I thought that might be good for the door. And then I thought, there we go, what have I got? I've got a dark daffodil delight and maybe a light granny apple green, because those are the colours that are in the DSP. So to do the the main building, I'm going to come in with my dark balmy blue stuff first. In fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to do my light night of navy. I'm going to use the bullet tip, and that's going to make my door frames. I'm doing those first because obviously when the card gets saturated, it's more likely to bleed. So I'm just going to come in and do these dark bits first. So hopefully to minimise that, I'm just going to come, and now this little bit I'm just dotting. I'm not actually sort of being amazingly accurate, but I think it just gives that little effect for that decorative edge. I'm going to colour in my deep stripe. And I'm going to do the same at the top here. This is where you see whether I'm shaky or not. Some people can just draw freehand lines. No, not me. No, not me. I can't do that. Wobbly lines, maybe, yeah. I do admire people who can do art. Yeah, I can't. Not my forte. Let's do the step with a dark blue as well. And the bullet tip is really good for detail on lots of things. So let's put that one away, and let's add in some colour. So we'll go in. I'm going to use my dark balmy blue, and this is where I'm going to do my shading. So I'm just going to come into the corners here and kind of underneath those shells, over the arches, in the corners of the buildings. Just going to add a bit of colour there on the edges of those. And there are some amazing people out there who can do fantastic colouring and shading. Not me, but hey, you know, we do our bit. Just adds a little bit of kind of texture to it as much as anything. There we go. I'm just going to come a little bit, and the darker ones and the bullet tips tend to be slightly darker as well. So I've kind of gone over that. Oh, I'll do my door in dark balmy blue as well, actually. I'm going to keep that actual the door front uncoloured at the moment. I'm just going to come down. Like so. So I think I'm going to try the ivory, because smoky slate I found was a little bit, oh, perhaps not. No, the ivory's a bit too creamy. Let's get the colour lifter in place. I'm just going to use that colour lifter to move that colour out of the way. And then I'll come in and decide what colour I'm going to do that in a moment. I'm going to grab my light balmy blue, and I'm going to use the brush tip end And I'm just going to come in and just colour over all of those, paying particular attention to where I've put those darker bits and that joins in. So I'm just going to go over that. Little circular motions on the straight bits. I'm going to just keep it straight. Often I would use the balmy blue actually to kind of colour in windows, because windows sometimes have that kind of slight bluish tint, don't they? Do they? I don't know. So yeah, let me know if you've got suggestions as to what colour would work well. I think with the blue tones I don't want to introduce any kind of brownish ones, which I think the ivory was doing slightly. There we go, so let's just... I'll have to add some colour to it just to get rid of that. So maybe I will end up with smoky slate. Let's have a look. What have we got? I've got a light. It is light. Okay, let's go for it. We'll go for light smoky slate. At least it will tone in with my blue shades. There we go. And then let's have our notice can be in dark balmy blue. Along with a letterbox at the front there. So now I'm going to colour in all my little books. So I'm just going to grab, and these are so simple to colour in, you know, just grab a bit of colour, the occasional book, let's go for the Night of Navy as well. Oop, that's me breaking my... Okay. There we go. Being a bit heavy-handed with my blends and actually managed to pull it apart. Not good. And then let's go for some balmy blue as well. Some petal pink would be good. Just a bit of change. There we go. On the other one I used sort of crumb cake and petal pink just to get the different effects. So there we go. After all that faffing about, that's my bookshop done. I can add that to the right piece of card layer, just with a bit of adhesive, a bit of Tombow on the back there. Like so. And then I'm going to flip that over and add some dimensionals to the back so that it'll just pop up off the front of our card. There we go. Okay, and just make sure. Don't want it to get squashed in the post if you're posting it, do you? So bring your card back in. I mean, you could send the card just like that. I just think it just needs a little extra. And then say you could add one of the sentiments very easily. And I've left it blank for the moment, but just cut a little flag and add a sentiment. There we go. This is where it's useful to have marked your dimensionals on the back, because you can see which ones, or I could see which ones I hadn't taken. And then I'm just eyeballing this in the centre of my card, like so. So, I clear the decks. there we have a couple of cards. We have our bakery card, we have our bookshop, perfect for a book lover. I know Eleanor, my book loving friend in Canada, would be in the bookshop. I don't have many friends who do the cake shop actually, but you know, I'd certainly stand and look at the cakes anyway. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon, and if you'd like to purchase any of the items you've seen, hop along to Stampin' Up and search for me as a demonstrator when you come to check out, or use this month's host code on my blog, and that will automatically allow you to shop with me, and then I can send you allow contact, and I can send you my thank you card and gift if you use the host code. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to know when I post another video. Thanks for watching. Bye now.